we on? Good. Welcome to the Better Than Not podcast. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. But when we at least do something, we know it's almost always better than not. Welcome to Better Than Not, the podcast that aims to capture shifting perspectives and thought-provoking ideas in conversation while asking the question, is anything what it seems? Based on my series, The Changing Frame of Reference, which you can read on the Substack app, and I hope you will, as it might give you some insight into what the podcast is all about. I also hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel, Better Than Not, so I can continue to bring you great guests like today's. I'm your host, Doug Gardam, and today it's a real pleasure for me to welcome to Better Than Not, Adam Riley. Adam, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for making the time to come on. Now, Adam is a professional shearer of alpacas. That's interesting. He's also a carpenter by trade. He's a survivalist, I'll say adventurer, and most of you will know Adam from the Alone series in season 9, which is one of the reasons why I'm very intrigued to have our conversation today. So, Adam, welcome.
Thanks. Yeah.
I hope I got that all straight.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but yeah, it sounds
Well,
about right.
There's a lot of things. That's where I wanted to kind of start, because it's like you were born in the UK, as I understand. And you came to the U.S. As a youngster. You've been through, I think, a number of different adventures, including circumnavigating the globe. And I think it was interrupted by this pandemic thing that we had. If I'm not mistaken, you've also been to Madagascar?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Kind of a crazy thing to do. And
Yeah.
then you kind of found yourself on this Alone series. How does all that kind of happen in a lifetime, Adam?
I mean, I just kind of come up with some crazy idea and then I do it. I don't put much thought into it beyond that. If I see something I want to do, I figure out how to make it happen and try not to let my own insecurities or inexperience get in the way, and just kind of Forrest Gump my way through it. It's kind of the story of my life.
I like that. I like that. So how,
Yeah.
when you came to the U.S., were you already, as a youngster, doing kind of, I'll say, adventurous stuff? Like you were pretty active, or?
No, I was a nerdy, chubby little British boy that liked to read fantasy novels.
Oh, wow.
And I was bullied quite a lot as a child. So I spent a lot of time by myself and alone in the woods. You know, people like Steve Irwin, Crocodile Hunter, were a big influence on me when I was a kid. So I developed this love of reptiles and amphibians. And when we moved to Florida, I kind of became fat. Yeah, I just, you would see turtles in the ponds or gators in the ditches and snakes and lizards running around in your front yard. And for whatever reason, that those animals just fascinated me, and that was kind of a gateway for me to be spending time in the woods. And it all kind of blossomed from there. That you mentioned Madagascar. That was my very first kind of adventure. That was right after I graduated high school. I was 18 years old and I saved up a few $1,000 and booked a ticket and flew across to Africa by myself for 3 months. And that was specifically because the reptiles and amphibians in Madagascar are unlike anywhere else in the world. And it was a place that had fascinated me growing up, and I wanted to go see them for myself. But through that experience, I, developed this love of traveling and experiencing not just like different animals in other parts of the world, but different cultures and people and languages and religions and foods and all of the other kind of, the tapestry of life that exists in other parts of the world. So that really stoked my love for travel and, the more exotic and off the beaten path, the better. That was
Really?
just kind of my attitude
So
going into it all.
so obviously you never had any, I'll say, fear, trepidation around, like, mentioned gators, you mentioned like snakes and turtles. None of that was something that was even part of your psyche.
Yeah, no, I mean they scared, like, the animals did scare me. I was afraid of getting bitten,
Okay.
if I picked up a snake in the wild or whatever it is. But I mean, when you're a kid, that element of danger and fear is part of the attraction for, something like that. And, even in my first travels when I was younger, that first trip to Madagascar, I was so green. I mean, I didn't speak the
Oh,
language. This was before the internet was really a thing. Like, there was no way to contact home.
oh
The
wow.
first 3 days that I showed up in the capital, I found this little hovel of a hotel, and I just kind of hid in my room because I was so, like, overwhelmed with, trying to deal with, like, being in this strange country by myself. But it was a enormous growth experience,
Oh
and
yeah.
that first trip kind of made a man of me in a lot of ways, and really, you build confidence in your life, so you do something big like that, and then you know that you can do it again, and maybe even do it a little bit bigger the next time. And um, that was what I
Wow.
did. But yeah, I'm certainly not fearless. uh,
Well, it's interesting because it's one of those things I think came up. Like, I think we're all fearful to a certain extent. And if we're not a little bit fearful, sometimes you want to wonder. But
yeah,
you don't let that stop you. That's the part that I think is so intriguing.
yeah,
Because many people won't
yeah, I
take
know.
that step forward because they're afraid to. But like, you're going to Madagascar at 18 or 19 years old by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people thought I was going to die. you know, Fortunately, I have very supportive parents,
Well, that was my
who
next question.
didn't try to discourage me.
Really?
And, my poor mother has had to go through a lot of
Oh, I'll bet.
waiting by the phone for me to call and make sure that I'm okay over the course of my adult life. So,
But they
you
always
know,
encourage you to do this.
yeah, I mean, they wanted me to live my dreams, and they
Wow.
never stood in my way. So, that's a huge thing. I think that having people in your life that support you
Oh, huge.
is massive, and can help overcome some of the fears that you may have when you're trying to approach something like this. But I don't know if it's just confidence in myself or just whatever it may be. But yeah, I've never really let fear of the unknown stop me from doing something that I wanted to do. And it's always, fortunately, for the most part, worked out in my favor.
Well, I can't help but think of Robinson Crusoe and Daniel Defoe writing that book and
Mm,
saying that your thoughts are 1,000 times more scary than actually doing the thing that you're thinking about. And
yeah,
you kind of epitomize that in a way, right? Like, you're kind of saying that the fear is definitely there, but it's not something that's stopping you from kind of making that
yeah.
step forward. Wow.
And I loved Robinson Crusoe when I was younger. They actually left from Hull in that novel, which is where I'm from, and that's where I grew up, was in
Oh
Hull.
wow.
So
So you
yeah,
know a lot about Daniel Defoe then.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's cool. So did those fantasy novels that you read as a kid, you think they influenced this drive to say I want to see the world?
Um, I'm not sure. I think a lot of that was just escapism.
Okay.
And I loved The Lord of the Rings when I was growing up,
I'll
and
bet.
the Frodo and Sam on their journey, they were just pitted against the odds, and um, so inexperienced in the ways of the world, but they ultimately succeeded in their quest. And they were, I don't know, as like, fantasy novels are
Yeah.
just, they're an incredible, um, just people being able to build entire worlds out of their mind has always been
S-
fascinating to me.
So being from the UK, were you a Narnia fan?
Yeah, like Narnia. I was more into Tolkien.
Yes. Okay. I was going to say, because there's the Lewis, there's the Tolkien, and
Yeah,
with them
yeah,
being
no,
friends, I always kind of thought that it's like they're quite different in what they write about.
yeah,
And I mean, Lord of the Rings was actually a profound piece of work, right? As it kind of
absolutely.
developed. So
Yeah,
I didn't read that book as a youngster, and so I was always fascinated by those that did. And I thought, like, this is quite a book. Like, there's just
yeah,
so much in it.
yeah,
So interesting.
yeah.
So when you landed in Madagascar, you're very young. You've just graduated from high school. What kind of events came out of that like distinctly kept stayed with you?
Well, I mean, I would say that that initial trip really set me on my course.
Ah,
It was only a few years later that I made the decision to go back to university. I originally wasn't planning to go to school because I was more interested in working a trade.
hmm.
I prefer working with my hands, and I always have. But I decided I wanted to go back to university just to enrich myself, and I ended up going back for a degree in African studies. Um, Largely off of the back of that first trip, and how enamored I was with. I didn't just go to Madagascar; I also spent a month in South Africa, and
Oh,
you know the the languages and the culture and everything else just fascinated me. It was so different from what I had known in my own life. So I knew I was going to be a tradesman, and
mm.
I ended up going back to university in the UK because, as a British citizen, the school is subsidized, higher education is subsidized there. So I wasn't going to be straddled with an enormous amount of student debt. So I felt freer
Oh,
to
cool.
pursue something that was just going to be, for my own growth. And that was African studies. So that kind of also set me on a different course. And, um, it was just a very formative trip in my life.
So did you go back to Africa after finishing your studies then?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times
Okay.
on smaller trips, but I, funnily enough, I started branching off and going other places, and I'm long overdue for another trip back to sub-Saharan
I
Africa.
was going to say
But
I want to definitely
yeah,
go there
yeah,
as we kind of have this conversation. But I'm also thinking you've been to the Galapagos too, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, I sailed there in 2018 as that was my first stop on my Pacific crossing on my sailboat.
So interesting. How does that come about, Adam? Like many people will say things that are like that but are under control. You did this by yourself, did you not?
Yeah, it was a solo journey. One of my brothers joined me for a short leg, but he'd had no experience in sailing, so he was just kind of along for the ride. He was
Oh,
pretty
wow.
seasick the whole time, so it was kind of more of a liability than an asset. But yeah, I would say that was an 8,000-mile journey, and I did it solo for about 6,000 of those miles.
Oh, wow. Where did that
Yeah,
start?
in Panama. So I set off from Panama in July, and I was in New Zealand by December of 2018.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
you like as soon as you say this is where it gets me thinking of Thor Heyerdahl and
Mm,
Kontiki
yeah.
and like what they accomplished in because he was doing it kind of to demonstrate like a understanding, I think, of the emigration of the Polynesian people.
Yes. Yeah. And what
And
makes that story even more incredible is that he was wrong. And, but still, even despite being wrong in his theory, they still made it, which is incredible. Yeah. Thor Heyerdahl's a hero of mine.
wow. It's so when you're doing that, like is there not like how do I say it? Is so you're setting off from Panama and on your own. Um is there like anything like trepidation in the sense like I would almost go to terror, but that you're kind of like I'm on my own here. Now
Yeah.
you've I'll say done a lot probably throughout your life in learning how to do things, and you said you're good at with your hands while you like carpentry. But when you set off to that, like, was it just like a big gulp and here we go? Like,
Yeah.
how did that mental part of it kind of manifest itself in you?
Um, you know, I it's kind of like the whole eating an elephant thing, one bite at a time.
Ah,
And that trip was a series of journeys. So it wasn't just an 8,000-mile straight shot across the Pacific. Like, first I had to get to the Galapagos, and then I had to get to the Marquesas, and then to the Cook Islands. So, like, you know, I I
wow.
thought of it that way, but it definitely felt like I was jumping off of a cliff, because once you go, it's much harder it's almost impossible to turn around and come back, because you're sailing with the trade winds.
Right.
So once you go, you're going. You're you
Yes.
better have everything you need, because you're gonna have a hard time turning around. There is no turning around. It's a full commit. So that first morning, when I raised my anchor for the last time before setting off across the to the Galapagos, I was extremely nervous, but also it was kind of surreal,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's so much that you have to do, that I was so distracted with the day to day, just
Mm.
keeping the boat pointed in the right direction, and watching the weather and the tides, and for shipping containers, and boats, other boats, fishing boats, and everything else, that it's incredible how human beings can adapt to their circumstances, and the insane starts to feel normal, like, very quickly. Like, there were moments when I was out there where it kind of like came back to me, that I was like, wow, I'm on this tiny
Mm.
floating wooden thing in the middle of this vast ocean, and this little life raft of a boat is the only thing keeping me alive. And there was that constant fear of falling overboard, because
Oh, okay.
as when you're sailing solo, your boat is set on with some kind of autopilot. I had what was called a wind vane, which is like a self-steering mechanism that's entirely mechanical. There's no electrical components or anything, and it just sits on the back of the boat, and it helps steer the ship. And when that is set, if you were to fall off, the boat would just
Keep
keep
going.
going. And I can't think of a worse
Oh.
way to die than just, taking a piss off the side of the boat and losing your footing. And then suddenly you're just watching your boat sail away from you. And you know that you're in for,
Oh
like,
my
the
goodness.
worst 2 or 3 days of your life before you just ultimately drown. So that was, like, definitely, that freaked me out on more than one occasion, when I had, like, a close call, almost falling off the side or something like that.
Okay.
You know,
But yet
but
you're able to like push that aside. Like that's the
hmm,
part that I find so intriguing is that even with that there, and you probably have many other things that are kind of like that, but you kept going.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
can't, like you said, you can't turn around. It's funny when you bring that up because are you familiar with the Alex Honnold, the free climber?
yeah. They did that amazing film
Oh yes,
Solo, or Free
yes.
Solo, or whatever. Yeah,
So there's a film for those of you that haven't seen it that that almost is terrifying watching the film.
yeah.
But the reason why I bring that up is because, like you said, when you set off, you there's no turning back. And part of that film, he went up something like 400 feet one morning, and it didn't feel right, so he came back down.
Hmm.
And I thought, I mean, that's almost more incredible as actually summiting the thing is to come back down.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think people can maybe quite grasp the mental strength it would take to turn around. As I've done some climbing in my life, I climbed for several years,
Oh, really? Okay.
and it's much harder to climb down something than it is to climb up. And I imagine that, like, once he made that decision to turn around, there's almost like you've mentally broken,
Yeah.
your nerve has broken, and holding your composure through that would be, I can't even imagine. I mean, he's just built different,
Well,
Like,
I mean, in a way, though, Adam, like some of the experiences that you've been through have like similar things. I mean, you're obviously not a step away from falling 400 feet, but um, like you said, when you set out, it's not like, oh, I've changed my mind. Like you're kind of have to you have to keep going in the things that are happening. Did
yeah.
you have that thinking while you were on the travel, like about falling off? Like, was that in the back of your mind often?
I thought about it every day.
You did.
I had nightmares about it. I mean, like, I can't. Yeah,
Wow.
that weighs heavy on your mind, like that being that close to death, like,
Oh
and
yeah.
it could happen so easily. I there was one point where I was like putting my whisker pole out, which is just this like maybe 16-foot pole that you use to hold your sail out at a certain angle when you're going downwind. It's quite heavy, and you hoist it up with some ropes on the boat. And I did something wrong. I don't even remember what it was, but the whole pole came down, and it was maybe a foot from hitting me in the head.
Oh.
And that happened, and I thought to myself, well, if that had hit me in the head, I'd be dead right now. Like, that would have just gotten conked out and probably just tipped right over the side of the boat. And a lot of times you're wearing a harness. On that particular day, I wasn't, because it was calm, sunny conditions. And like I said, when you get so used to something just being normal,
Yes.
walking around the boat on a calm, sunny day, and you don't even, you're like, yeah, I don't need a harness, it's fine.
Oh
And
boy.
then something like that happens, and you're like, ooh. But I mean, that's the risk you take when you go to sea, especially as a solo sailor. Most people do not sail by themselves. That part is extremely rare. So there's, I would say probably a couple hundred people cross Pacific every year. Um,
Wow. I
and I
didn't know
would,
there would be that many.
yeah, I mean, maybe not quite that many, but there's more than just a couple dozen. But I would say solo, 5 or 6.
Okay, I understand what you mean. So, like, very few people do it on a solo, going, like, setting out and trying to cross
Yeah, I mean,
the
even
ocean.
amongst
Wow.
people who sail long distance across oceans, most of them think it's crazy to do it that way.
So, so interesting. Like, so you went to Madagascar after graduating high school, and you're fascinated by reptiles and the wildlife that's out there in the forest. You said kind of about spending a lot of time in the forest. What got you into the water, the ocean? Like, how did that, like, because that's different traveling than like hiking, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Or climbing.
Um, I didn't grow up with any sailing experience, but I did grow up in Florida. And, when you're in Florida, I grew up
Mm.
surfing
Oh, okay.
and, fishing off the piers and that sort of thing. So you spend a lot of time around the
Mm.
water. You see sailboats all the time. It's always something that you're like, oh, that looks cool, you know? And I think I'd been on like one or two kind of like sunset cruises. I lived down in Key West for almost 4 years
Oh, okay.
with an ex-girlfriend. And when that relationship ended, I was maybe 24 or 25, maybe a little bit older than that. And I had just finished my shearing season, so I had a bunch of cash.
Ah, okay.
And the relationship ended, and my kind of housing situation ended at the same time, so I was living in her house. And um, I just kind of thought to myself, well, what do you want to do? What do you like? what do you want to do that you would never have done if you had stayed in this relationship? And that was like,
Oh,
oh, I'm going to buy a sailboat. I'm going to go sail around the Caribbean. So I talked one of my buddies into flying over from England, who I went to college with, and bought a sailboat, did like a 5-day sailing course down in South Florida. And off the back of that 5-day course, we just jumped on the boat and just kind of figured it out and just kind of bumbled our way around the Caribbean for a season.
oh,
And that was how I learned to sail as an adult with no prior experience and not really any mentors or anything. Just bought a bunch of books on sailing and, you know, just went and did it.
so you're like really self-taught in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like you just
Yeah.
find the interest and you take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious now, how did shearing fit into all this? Like I'm kind of like very intrigued by how you're you're interested in, obviously in the reptile world, and then this whole sense in your heart of adventure, and yet you're a professional shearer.
Well, my parents, I grew up with my parent on a farm.
Oh, you
And
did? Oh, okay.
yeah. So we had a farm in north of Orlando, and that we had alpacas. So
Ah, okay.
the shearer would come every spring, and you know, we would give him a lot of money to shear our animals because it's such a niche trade that that it commands quite a high price to do it.
Ah,
And it's
okay.
important to be done well because essentially you're harvesting a crop. So if you have someone who doesn't know what they're doing, then the crop can be ruined, and that all that year's growth of fiber as tossed out, be no good. So a good shearer is extremely important. So I was 21 or 22. I was getting ready to go to college, and I was bouncing around looking, thinking, okay, what kind of trade do I actually want to do? I was tired of working, I was working like a club or just kind of doing bullshit jobs,
Yeah.
and the my mom was actually the one that suggested. She's like, well, why don't you, what do you think about shearing? And we called up the guy who had been shearing our animals, and I asked him if he needed an apprentice, and he took me on, and I spent a season with him
Wow.
and taught me how to do it, and that helped me pay my way through college. And by the time I made it out of university and I had graduated, I had put together my own little shearing route, and I was making enough money where I was like, well, if I go all in on this, I could work for 2 or 3 months and then take the rest of the year off.
Wow.
And that's what I did. So I went all in, and I started shearing full time in the spring, and then I would have 9 months where I could, I wasn't making like an absolute fortune, but when you're 25 years old and you don't own a home, and you drive in a little shitbox truck that you paid
Right.
$600 for, like it's like, what do you really need, so
No, true, true.
so I just that's what I did for like, you know probably almost 10 years until I bought my house, and I tried
Wow.
settling down a little bit, and that didn't
No,
work too
that
well.
is like fascinating. Like when
Yeah.
you're shearing, how many could you do like in a day? Like how big a job is this when you're shearing an alpaca?
I can shear up to 100 a day. I do 100's about my max. Um,
Wow.
so yeah,
So
and
this
I'm one of the fastest in the world. So
really, so you
yeah,
still do this
yeah,
regularly?
oh, yeah. Every spring since I'm 23.
Oh
It'll be
my
my
goodness.
18th season coming up this year. Yeah.
Interesting. Like who would even know something like this by and large? Like it's just not one of those things that
No, it's a very
kind of,
niche trade.
yeah, really. So that
Yeah.
supplies your ability to go out and do these kind of adventures and
Yeah, it used to. I dialed it back several years ago, because it's an extremely physically taxing job,
I'll bet it
and
is.
it's hard to be away from home for that much time. And I was trying to kind of like move my life in a different direction, which is why when I started doing carpentry more full time, I had kind of been doing it off and on for several years, but I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to dial back the shearing, dial up the carpentry, and try doing something different. So, now it's kind of like I do about 6 weeks. So
Oh,
that's
okay,
good.
okay.
That's good for me.
Well, I like the idea of carpentry because I trained as an engineer and that's kind of what I did. But the trades world I find interesting because as soon as you do something, there's a satisfaction with what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've worked with your hands and you've built a cabinet, you've built a chair, whatever it is that you're working on. And I mean, even in the sense of shearing, you would get a sense of once you've completed um, one of the alpacas, like you've done
Absolutely.
something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
And
there's a level of gratification that comes from working a trade that you don't get in an office job.
it's quite like I said. It's sometimes I often think that it's an oversold kind of idea because and whether you're a plumber or electrician or whatever, I mean, when you've unplugged somebody's toilet or sink who can't do that themselves, I mean, they're so thankful, and it's just like you because we need that sink unplugged. Our house doesn't work without it working, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's like, how did we? Or I'll speak even to myself. How did I miss that? Because you're so encouraged to go in these other directions. So it's like it's neat that you found your way in the cover. So how did this idea now? So you've spent how many days did you spend going to like on this 8,000 was it mile
Mm-hmm.
trip?
Nautical
How
miles. Yeah.
you're alone you said for like 3/4 of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um was that a new experience for you?
Yes. Yeah. That was the longest leg that I did solo was 23 or 24 days. And yeah, I mean, that was a totally new experience. That level of isolation and solitude was, I loved it. I mean, I
Well,
really
that was my
did.
next
Yeah.
question. What did you like? What did you find with that? Because it's like one of the things that we come out of this pandemic with, which I was unaware of, is kind of like how important people are, like that we're connecting with people.
Hmm.
And I think that's what so fascinated me with the series which is kind of where we're going to go next. But and alone was the fact that I mean, as a prisoner who misbehaves, what do? They put you in solitary. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so what is it so that attracts you? So now you're in this. You said you did 28 days,
It was 23 or 24. I can't
24
remember
days,
exactly. Yeah.
and you saw no one during that time.
A couple of ships on the
Oh,
horizon,
you see
distant
them,
ships, you know.
but no
Yeah.
exchange or connection with anyone.
No. Well, no, I had a satellite phone, and every 5 days I would call my parents and let them know I was
Oh,
still alive, and it was about a 3 minute phone call because it was like $8 a minute or something crazy like that to make these calls. So it was just kind of like, hey, here are my coordinates. Has anyone nuked the planet yet? No. Okay, good. All right. Hope you guys are good. I'll talk to you in 5 days. So that was kind of how we did it.
so how were your parents with that? Because I mean, what I've kind of found out is as long as you grow older, you kind of think, well, you're an old you're not a kid anymore, so like your parents, and it doesn't work that way, right? As long as you're alive, you're still your parents' child,
Yeah.
and that cares there. How were they with this adventure that you were on?
Yeah, they were, again, they were very supportive and
Amazing.
scared and everything else, but they didn't discourage me. And yeah, I mean, they are amazing. I agree. It's a big ask. And my mom, uh, I mean, both my parents, they have a lot of confidence in me. Like
That's cool. That's very
they
cool.
I think that if I had, like, just worked at Starbucks for 12 years and then went and did this this sailing trip, and it was the first thing I had ever done that was like remotely outside of the box,
Right.
then maybe they've been like, are you crazy? But like, they already know I'm crazy. So like, and I had, like I said, like these things you build on, and you build your own set experiences and your own abilities to problem solve and deal with adversity and everything else. And you know,
Amazing.
just like any skill set, like you can grow it and develop it, and at some point you're
You master.
in the middle of the Arctic or whatever. Like, it's like,
Well,
that's how West and I met, was through doing the Northwest Passage. So
that's like,
yeah.
and we'll get to that too, because that to me is fascinating. But one of the things I was going to remark on Adam here, which I found amazing in doing many of these conversations with people who have done some pretty crazy things, almost the number one consistent fact is their family or their parents are very supportive of what they're doing. It's like a one-to-one. Like it's quite amazing to me. And I had no idea when you said that, like that your parents supported you throughout all of this. That is
Yeah,
that's
it's in,
something that's special.
it's amazing to think how much power negativity can have over somebody, and telling somebody, I mean, maybe not even your parents, it may be your partner or your best
Hmm.
friend, or if you trust that person and you value their opinion, their negative output can derail your dreams so quickly.
That's an
So it's
amazing
like a
statement.
it's like a seed of it's a seed that grows inside of you. Their doubt becomes your doubt, and suddenly you're
It's gone.
it's gone. Yeah, it's just
Wow.
gone. We got to be so careful how we approach others, and that you could make a little comment to someone that you would never think twice about, and it'll sit with them for years. Yeah.
It's that saying, sticks and stones, right? Yeah, like almost like how wrong it is. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Mm.
It's like it's kind of like it nothing's what it seems. It's almost the reverse.
Yeah.
It's funny because last night we went. Are you familiar with Anne of Green Gables from Prince Edward Island in
Oh
Canada?
yeah, I love it. We watched the series just earlier this year.
Oh, the
My
latest series.
my partner and I, yeah, and with an E. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, it was really good. I loved it.
So it's so neat because when we went to, it was done by the local group here, and Anne was very, very good here in Abbotsford. And but it's exactly what you kind of said, right? Like just like you may not even be aware that you're saying, like, okay, so you may be being honest, but what you've just said is enormously hurtful, enormously negative. That just and so that's kind of like, do you build a resistance to that, Adam? Like, because you would have people telling you you're crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's like I'm incredible. So we've met through a common friend, Wes Hansen, and you were just mentioning about going through the Arctic, and I was kind of like, how do you do that? And you've been up there too, right? And doing
Yeah, we had an expedition the same year.
yes.
My expedition partner and I were also attempting to be the first people to paddle across the Northwest Passage, and um, we were going the
Okay.
other direction from them. So we were going to kind of like wave to each other as we passed halfway across, or whatever.
Were you connected with him before you went on that journey, or was that during the journey that you got to know him?
So West and his partner had made an attempt the year previously,
Yes.
and when we first started planning our expedition, through my research online, I found West, and I reached out to him asking him if he would be kind enough to talk to us about his journey and pick his brain on, you know, what we could do. And at that point, it was extremely early in our planning process, and most people weren't taking us seriously,
Oh,
so
yeah.
all the credit to West that like he took our call, and he was so helpful, just with advice and encouragement, and every step of the way he didn't try to discourage us or treat us like we were his competition or anything like that. Like, he was a great supporter of our trip, and I'll always be grateful to him for that, because he um, you know is such an experienced
Oh,
expedition leader. I mean, he's what he has done in his career goes far beyond the Arctic. I mean, that he was one of the first people to paddle the entire length of the Amazon River, and that was like
wow,
25 years ago. Like,
crazy.
I mean, yeah, he's another he, so to have his support was huge for us. And
Oh, yeah.
um you know they're making another attempt next year, so that
Yes.
to be
We're
going the way that Maddie, my partner, and I went, which was from west to east,
I know.
which in
So,
some ways could be harder. There's no easy way to do it, but west to east is a little bit more against the prevailing winds, if you could even call them
man.
prevailing winds, because they shift so much. But like, it's challenge. I mean, they're both challenging, but this might be more challenging.
So, so Adam, you go and you do this 8,000-mile journey across the ocean by yourself. How does let's go and do the Arctic now. Like, how does that, like, how do those things come about? You just, like, what got you interested in wanting to go across the Northwest Passage?
It wasn't my idea. It was actually my partner Maddie's idea,
Oh,
and
okay.
he came and worked. We met on Alone, and at the season after Alone, I needed a new apprentice, or well, not even apprentice, but I just needed someone to help me with my shearing, because
Oh,
it's a
okay.
two-person job, and we had kind of hit it off a bit when we were up there during the kind of training, or whatever you want to call it, the boot camp kind of side of
Right.
things. So, I called him up and said, "Hey man, what are you doing in the spring? Well, you want to come shear alpacas with me down in the US?" He lives up in Newfoundland. And he's like, "Yeah,
Yes.
yeah." So he just came. And then, like, it was like that first week, like, we had really not even hung out that much together. And we were just kind of here at my house swapping stories and dreams and that sort of thing. And he just kind of said, "You know what I've always wanted to do? Canoe across the Northwest Passage."
Oh
And I
my
was just like,
goodness.
"Let's do it, man." Let's
That's all
do
you
it.
needed.
That's it. Yeah, that's all I needed. So we just shook on it right then and there, and that was like the first. That was it. We just went for it. So I
So,
don't know. I hadn't. It had never been a childhood dream of mine or anything, but I had read a lot of books about Amundsen and Franklin expeditions, and I was
yes.
fascinated with polar explorers and that kind of period of history, around in early 1900s, when they were doing these kind of incredible firsts.
Right.
Uh, so it was on my radar, but I had never really envisioned myself doing it, let alone trying to row it. I mean, neither of us were rowers. That was something we just kind of learned up there, how to row. So
That, like, to me, Adam, like, it's just one of those things. What's so, I'll say, very inspiring about chatting with you is the fact that, like, you're just, I think of it and you go and do it. Like, it kind of, like, gives hope to all of us of saying, like,
yeah,
just go and do
well,
it. Like, just
yeah. I mean,
it's
Maddie was the same way. We're definitely cut from the cloth in that way. He's done some incredible things in his life, and both of us don't come from a wealthy family. Like, we're just blue collar tradesmen who are just willing to scrape together some money and just kind of do it on a shoestring, which I think is also, I hope, inspiring for people, because I think that
yes.
a lot of people believe that you have to have a trust fund to go sail around the world, or you have to be a Jimmy Chin or Alex Honnold in order to, like, go climbing in
Mm,
Yosemite or whatever. Like, you just you know, like,
You, you just
I mean,
do it.
like I'm fortunate that like my circumstances are such, and I've built my life around having the freedom to do that. Like if you have kids, if you've got elderly or sick family members that you need to take care of, if you have your own health conditions. I mean, there's lots of reasons that stop people from doing something like that. But I'm fortunate enough that I have my health, and my family has their health, and I can kind of take the time to go do it. But everyone's got their own version of the Northwest Passage, something that they've always wanted to do.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
a lot of people just don't even know where to start.
Right.
Like, where do you start? How do you even get started with that? And it's like the first way to start is just to commit to it, you know, and everything will
That's
fall into place if you
Adam.
really are fully committed. So
It's such a cool statement you just made there, because that's another one of those things that like you have to commit. Like it,
yeah,
and when you say commit, you don't mean kind of. Like
no, you
you
got to go all in.
you're probably like, I don't, you mean you do you commit easily? It doesn't sound like you do. But once you're committed, the game's over. It's going to be done.
Uh, I follow my gut,
Yeah,
and
okay. Oh man.
like if an idea hits me and it kind of like stirs me in that way, like I mean, I can kind of become obsessed with it. There's definitely been some like pie in the sky ideas that have never borne fruit, that like
Mm,
never really left the ground, for one reason or another. So I can't say that it's always lightning doesn't always strike in the same way, but um, you know, yeah, I mean, once I'm fully settled on something, like I kind of become obsessed. And I think you need some level of obsession in order
oh yeah.
to make something that outlandish kind of happen.
So
You're not going to be able to do it just kind of like
kind of.
15 minutes on a Sunday afternoon, like
So would you call some of that like um delusional? Like when and I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean it like you just can't be satisfied with status quo.
I think delusion um
Is that too
kind
strong?
well, I think that the idea of a delusion is that it doesn't square with reality.
Okay,
And
okay.
um
Yeah.
but is it uh, delusional? I guess, maybe. Yeah, it just depends on.
No, I
But
like
at the end of the day, if you actually do it and you make it happen,
it's
is it delusional? I don't know.
no, because I mean delusional implies a certain mental, shall we say, maybe psychological break as well.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's things that you would have to do
I mean,
psychologically, but
delusional maybe like I'm gonna go compete in the Olympics on the 100-meter
yeah,
sprint.
yes, yes,
Like
yeah.
as a 40-year-old, like, dang. I mean, you could dream it, but it's probably not gonna happen, man.
You might get pretty fast, but it's not going to get
Yeah,
to that point for sure. No,
yeah, yeah.
that's a better way of looking at it. So we've got a couple of things here, and I think, as you mentioned, you met Maddie on the alone thing. So after you did your ocean adventure trip, expedition, I'm going to call it. How did this? How did you hear about Get Connected with Alone?
Well, so it was 2021, and I had parked the boat in New Zealand, and the pandemic hit, and the boat was going up for sale.
Oh, okay.
There was just kind of the prospects of everything. The world was closed, you
Yes.
know.
Yep.
Um, so I was home, sitting around watching a lot of TV, which is not something I had the luxury or time to do in previous years. And
Right.
I had heard about Alone for years, but I'd never watched it. And
You had heard about it.
yeah, I actually saw the casting call for the very first season years earlier. I was
Oh,
at a primitive skills gathering in Idaho, and there was someone there trying to cast for this show, and they had some notice up on the bulletin board, and I remember looking at it like, that seems dumb. That's not good. ain't gonna work.
That's
So I knew that it had been going on, and I had a vague idea of what it was, but I had several people tell me like, man, you got to check this show out, like you would be so good
okay.
on it and everything else. And I was like, okay, sitting at home doing nothing, like let's watch alone. And I kind of binged the first couple of seasons, and
Oh, okay.
it was kind of good that I watched the first two seasons first, because I watched the first couple of seasons. I think I watched like season one and then like a bit of season two. Got kind of bored with season two, and I jumped to season three, and I watched season three. And that was all.
Okay.
That was it. That was the extent of it. And then I was like, I can do this. So I got online, and there's just like a website, the Alone website. There's like a casting email
Interesting.
dump, and it just said, think what you think you got what it takes, like send us an email. So I just like clapped up an email telling him what I had done and who I was and why I thought I'd be good for the show, and shot it out into the ether. And I didn't hear back from anybody for like 8 months or
Oh,
something like that.
wow.
It just went
Okay.
into the slush pile, and like that email inbox has tens of thousands of emails in it.
Oh,
So
I must be
I
crazy.
never expected to hear back from them, really. But I got a call out of the blue on I guess 22,
Okay.
March or April or something like that. It was from them, and it started with a phone call, and then went to a Zoom chat, and then it just kind of progressed from there. And before I knew it, I was up in Labrador. So
So, was that one of those things that you just began to commit to as you talked to them?
yeah, I didn't expect to get on the show.
Okay.
um
Okay.
I just knew how rigorous the casting process was. I mean, they had 40,000 applicants for that season,
Oh, man.
and I had some interesting background, but like
Sure.
you look at some of the people who are on Alone, and they are, professional. They run a survival school, or they're like a professional hunting guide, or I mean, I was just a freaking hillbilly in Arkansas. Like, I didn't think I had a chance. But the solo sailing thing kind of set me apart. They were really into that, like,
Okay.
because they had never had somebody who had been alone at sea for
Oh, man.
weeks on end. And I think they saw that as a unique angle,
Sure.
which they're always looking for different types of people. It's not always about how good you are at starting a fire, or like how many
Yeah.
animals you've killed with a bow and arrow. Like they want all sorts of types, because the formula for who does well on that show is extremely complicated. Like
Oh,
it's that I do not envy the casting process, because there's been people that they have like plucked up, that I know, I mean, I don't know, but I assume they were like, yeah, this guy's gonna do great. Like, look at this
yeah. Oh,
resume, like he's so amazing. And then the dude will tap in like a week,
I know.
So it's like
Well, I
that.
think that's what makes the show very interesting, Adam,
Yeah,
because you
I agree.
kind of it's kind of it. You said this earlier on, and I'm not trying to interrupt you here, but you said about you can do this on a shoestring by budget. The things that you're doing, you don't have to have a trust fund and so on. And it kind of reminded me of the guys on the ski hill with all the expensive equipment that can't really ski,
Yeah.
or and it really comes by sport because it's like the equipment is a big part of sport, right?
Hmm.
And it's like you see all this shiny stuff and then you're going like, what? And to your point, you've just reinforced 40,000 people applied to the season you were like, that's scrutiny, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And
Wow.
the vast majority of those applicants are not qualified to be on the show in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's a serious kind of, what do they call that, Dunning-Kruger effect, when it comes to like
Mm,
people thinking they can do well
yes.
outdoors. And like, the less you go outdoors, the more confident you are that you could do well on the show.
Isn't how crazy our mind? That's a kind of delusional, right?
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of delusional, overconfident men out there, and it is mostly men. You find that the women on Alone maybe only make up 20% of
Yes.
the show.
Yeah.
But when you look at like who's lasted consistently the longest, it's always the women do so much better than the men.
Oh, that's a good point. It's a good point.
It's interesting that unqualified women seem not to apply. Like
they just know.
They just wouldn't think to do it, whereas like every guy thinks they can like win in a fight and like be John Wayne and run a chainsaw and survive in the wilderness. Like it's ingrained in our like kind of American or North American psyche that like this, that we're all good at these things, but like most guys probably aren't nearly as good as they think they are. Well, but,
yeah. Well, when you say that, it kind of reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld's line about superheroes and guys seeing them as options.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Women think they're just daydreams, but guys see them as options. And you kind of just said that with like how we kind of see it. The longer we watch golf for, the better we get, right?
Yeah. And Alone is an interesting experiment into the psychology of people, and more than any other television show has ever been put out there, I think, because on the flip side of what I just described, there are people who have spent thousands of nights out in the woods and have killed hundreds of animals with a bow and arrow. But you take that combined element of hunger and isolation and pressure of like being in this spotlight of the knowing that millions of people are going to watch your every failure or success, and whatever skeletons you have in your closet, whatever insecurities you're harboring that you have not addressed, they will come and they will get you.
Wow.
And I think I personally faced most of those insecurities on my sailing trip, because I had spent a lot of time alone on that trip, and like the key skill in Alone that is often overlooked is being alone. And there's a lot of experienced outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen who have spent a lot of time outdoors that haven't spent a lot of time outdoors by themselves.
Oh yeah.
They're hunting guides, or they work at a survival school or whatever, and maybe they've done a 2 or 3 day kind of solo journey or vision quest or whatever. But there's a big difference between that and 20 days, 30 days, 50 days, 100 days, like
it's amazing to me.
It's amazing to me too.
I kind of like, that's what attracted, like, I think I told you, my wife suggested it. I really wasn't interested, but I always will like, okay, let's try anyway. And the first episode and I wish I could remember what season it was, because it wasn't the first one. And I think after the third one, I was totally hooked. And partly because of these Navy SEAL military trained individuals that after 25 days, they couldn't stand it anymore, missing their kids. And it's exactly to your point, was when you're with the military, you're not really alone, right? You're always with your buddy.
Never alone.
You're highly skilled and you can do a lot of crazy things, but you're not alone. And so it's like, so that's kind of why it became very interesting, because as a viewer, and that's the only way I could speak, Adam, was you've got cameras on it and we kind of feel you've come into our living rooms. So we forget that you're alone. Like you're not like, this is to me the power of almost TV, is you feel like you're there and the person you're watching is in a like situation. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to kind of, and that's why I wanted to ask like this question, like, how how was that for you when like you're there and all you have is really the cameras?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unique experience
Oh,
because, you know, you are genuinely alone. Like the production crew will come out. I think the first time they'll come out is maybe 2 weeks after they've dropped you off. Well, no, they'll come out a little earlier than that just to make sure that you're set your camp up in a good spot and you're not too far from an extraction site and that sort of thing. So do a safety check, and then that's it. Like you're really really alone. And even when you need new camera batteries, you just put them in a bag and you hang them off a tree or something, and they'll come and swap them out while you're away hunting or whatever. Like they try
oh, wow.
really hard not to break the the bubble.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
and
man.
all you have are these cameras, and there's an expectation that you've got to film for 5 or 6 hours a day. You have to do a daily journal, and you start confiding things in the cameras. I mean, it's incredible how quickly you 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 forget. You don't forget, but like you kind of do in a way forget that like you're filming for a TV show here, and the cameras just kind of become your Wilson, you know, like if you remember
Yes,
Castaway, like
absolutely.
yeah,
That's
and that's
exactly
what
what I'm thinking of when you say this.
that's what they want. They want the camera to be your confidant and your therapist, and they encourage that. They tell you that, and you
Oh,
know,
man.
it is like uh, a way for you to kind of verbalize and talk through your problems or whatever it is you're fearing or insecurity. And that's why like it's funny when you I don't know if you've ever gone on any of the alone Reddit or Facebook groups or anything
No.
like that, but there's a like consistently like large subset of the fan base that like think that all of us who go out there are just these soft namby-pamby like weak people
Yep.
because we're like crying or we're
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
always complaining to the camera or whatever, and it's like, dude, you got no one else to talk to. And they they will you could spend 10 days just striking a positive optimistic tone, putting on a front even like to the camera. You have that one little moment, self-doubt, insecurity, pluck that out, put that on TV, because that's what they want people to see.
Right.
They want it to be a struggle,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
like they're crafting a narrative. It is a story that they're telling. It is not. It is reality TV, and it's I've often said this is like the realest reality TV that's out there, but there is a character that they're portraying of
Mhm.
you, and it's a character arc that they want
Yeah.
to portray, and every person has their own personal story arc. These people are storytellers,
Mhm.
like this. It's not the survival Olympics. It is a show that is showcasing the struggles of being alone in the wilderness. So like that's what they're going to show, you know
Yep.
and
For
yeah,
sure.
I find it I was finding people who are like, you know don't understand that side of it. Like it's so mad when the people are
Well,
tap
I
out or whatever.
I think you have to like spend some time thinking about it too, right? Like this is a part that I find so fascinating about it. Like it hits the theme of part of this podcast is nothing is what it seems, right?
Mhm.
And it's very much in seeing that it's like because part and again this would be like the story arc that you're talking about, but how you mentioned this earlier when someone says something negative to you, and it can be quite even offhand. It's not necessarily even intended to be mean, but it can be a crack in that dream.
Mhm.
And everything that's catastrophic starts as a crack. And one of the things that comes through those narratives is when that negative starts to enter your brain and how quickly it starts to manifest itself. And then of course we see the cameras and the tap out. And it can be someone who looks very, by all means, and again, this could be quite part of the narrative, but it's fascinating to watch from a psychological perspective that this person that has it all together has this moment that's weak, and then it just ends. And so it's like, it's a fascinating thing to watch. And so now, kind of talking with yourself, the person that's actually experienced this phenomena, it's like, and you've done this without a camera too,
Yeah.
in crossing the ocean. So when you landed, no, that's not really what I mean. Because it wasn't until later in the series that you started to see the preparation, and you go up for like a base camp for a couple of weeks before you actually are pushed out or dropped in your place where you're going to live for the next however long.
A little less than a week.
That's how long base camp is?
I think it varies from season to season because of
Okay.
our particular circumstance. Because they're working around weather windows and that sort of thing.
Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
so
The
yeah,
organization seems to be
yeah,
stunning to me.
it's absolutely.
Was that like when I watched this, because I'd seen a number of series and then I saw that and I said that would almost knock me out. Like that first part, because you're with people, you're coordinating with people, you're learning different things. What was that like prior to being literally dropped?
It was interesting. Um, I enjoyed hanging out with the other participants because we had all kind of connected through the casting process and like
Oh,
had a little
okay.
group chat and stuff. So like, you know, there was some people who I'd kind of like struck up a friendly kind of banter with before we finally arrived, and it was cool to hang out. I mean, you know, everyone on the show is pretty cool. Like
That's
you're
neat.
hand picking 10 or 12 people who are all interesting and have like these like storied backgrounds and everything else. So like you're meeting a lot of like-minded people, and you're also trying to suss everybody out. And you know, I mean, it's a game, right? There's a $500,000 on the line. You're like
No, that's the other part. Yes.
looking at all these people and be like, all right, who have I got to outlast here, really? You know, and that's how I had it in my mind. I had two or
Oh,
three people
okay.
in my head where I was like, that guy's going the distance for sure. And you know, so it's like but I was so ready to just get out there. I didn't want to be at a boot camp. I just wanted to go, you
So you
know.
felt that way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was so excited. I had a great time, dude. I had so much fun. And I don't know, like I never really like I tried not to overthink it all too much. You know, I was pretty relaxed out there. I had a good time. I
So
didn't
so
suffer
you
really.
you weren't bothered by, um which I can understand, but you weren't bothered by, I'm alone now. I'm here and I got to do my stuff. Like that, none of that kind of occurred. Like was there because you've already had a lot of experience in that zone anyway.
Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable
Interesting.
because I knew that I had more experience being alone than almost anybody else there,
Ah,
barring
right.
one or two people. So I leaned on that and was like, yeah, these guys, I got XYZ skills, but like they're gonna crack. You know? So I just leaned in on that and just kind of trusted my own abilities. But I definitely also doubted myself in some ways, and that ended up ultimately being my undoing because like it
Oh
turned
wow.
out that you know I was doing quite well on hunting and fishing, and you know the thing that you don't really understand as a viewer is like you have no input coming in. You're seeing
Yeah.
a cut to the other guy getting a big fish or shooting a grouse or a moose or whatever it is. But me, as the person there, I have no idea what everybody else is doing. And you spend a, you know, you try not to, but you do spend time in your brain just being like, man, that guy's such a good hunter. Like, if I'm doing this good, he's got to be killing it out there,
Ah,
you
okay.
know? And
Yeah.
I had allowed those sort of thoughts to creep into my in monologue, and you know, I convinced myself that that others would be doing better than me, when it actually turned out they weren't. I was,
Yeah.
I learned a lesson there about just, you just focus on your own game and really try not to let what other people might or might not be doing enter your thought process. But it's hard not to, because you don't know how many people are left. You have no idea how much longer you have to be out there, and it just eats away at you. It's not just about being
Oh,
alone. It's that you you do not know when it's over. You can have no idea if it's going to be another day or
right.
another 50 days. Like, you just don't know. And like, the not knowing, the total lack of inputs is very hard to
Oh,
wrestle with in an already psychologically weakened state, because you're so hungry and you're tired and everything else. So it's like a wrestling match with your brain, you know?
no, it's I just find it like you probably heard of HALT, right? Which stands for there's things like you're hungry, you're angry, um I forget the L and T, but
No, I haven't heard that.
those are all significant things that affect you psychologically.
Hmm.
And or you're tired. T is tired, and L is I can't remember what it is.
Lonely, maybe?
It could, yes, lonely is the other one. I think
Yeah.
those are the four. And if you're having anxious moments, this is in regular life.
Yeah.
Those are the four things that
Yeah.
you're likely struggling
Yeah.
with, right?
Well,
And I'm
there you
kind
go. You're three of the four
all the
all
time.
the time. Yeah.
And it's like it's amazing watching that overcome. And it's like how you said. I even think in our own day, like we're trying to fit in often in our world, right? What will other people think of me? And we get instant feedback often for that. You have nothing in that situation. Like in that, like you said, just would wear and wear on you. And it's not like oh, now I can have a rest. It's 24/7. So it's so when
And
you know
there's an additional pressure of knowing that everything you do could be broadcast out to the world
oh,
as well,
and
right?
you
So
think of
like,
that too.
I
Oh,
didn't let that bother me because I'm not a professional outdoors survivalist. So I
ah,
didn't feel like I had anything to prove. But if you run a survival school
oh,
and you have your career staked on being a professional in this
yep,
world, and you go on and you don't do very well, I mean, like, say you can't get a fire started, or
yeah,
you're missing all of your shots with your bow and it's all on film, like, I know that that is something that has cracked people on the show. Like, that's a hard thing
oh
to
yeah,
contend with, that you are, when the rubber meets the road and you're actually in this survival situation, you're
wow.
not performing like you thought you would, or like you have told everybody that you could,
No, I mean, I know as a viewer how you see things, right? Like it's like
Mhm.
I had no idea the numbers were like you said though, 40,000 for 20,
Yeah.
12. Is it 12?
10 final people, and then they take
Eh,
two alternates in case somebody gets sick or injured or something before they drop you
They
off.
ah
It's like
okay.
two
Oh
extras,
my
a
goodness.
couple of spares.
So I'm always intrigued by if asked, would you do it again?
Oh yeah,
You
I'd
would,
like
eh?
I'd go tomorrow if they were like, "Hey man, like, we had someone just drop out. Like, we need you on the plane in the morning." I'm like, do
Oh
this.
my god. That's Adam, that's so encouraging. Like it's so cool that you kind of think that
Yeah,
way because it's like
yeah.
it's just
Honestly, I had a great time. Like, I had a lot of fun, and I can't. It was a really cool experience. So, um, I I I left at the right time. There was a lot of people who stay too long,
ah,
or don't stay long enough. And I think that either of those two exits can sully the experience for some people, or
mm,
like create maybe a bit of, you know, subconscious trauma. Like, if you destroy your body and you get pulled for being too starving or whatever, it takes a long time to recover from that.
Oh, I
And,
imagine it
you know, I
does.
think that sits with some people for a long time, even if they wouldn't admit it. And also, if you kind of crack
Hmm.
uh, early, you have to deal with the fallout from that, which is like you get an army of trolls
Oh,
who will
man.
tell you how you never deserve to be on the show in the first place and how you're pathetic and weak and
Mm,
you know, you're the worst contestant that's ever been on the show and all of that stuff. Like,
that's tough.
God, it's tough to be the first one out on any season, especially for some silly reason, you know. But I mean, it happens.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's,
You know, like,
well, that's the part, like you mentioned earlier on, there's a game here too, right?
yeah.
And it's part of what you're participating in. But just like to me, I haven't experienced a show that has taken like that psychological part and showed it in such a um, meaningful but also real way. Like just
Hmm.
how we are. Tell me, when you're through, when you were going through this, and you're at I don't know whatever days, 36 days, let's say. Were you kind of like going like, how long are people going to go? Like, was
Hmm.
that something that's constant, like saying, like, because you already have experience on this,
Hmm.
you know what it's like to be 23 or 24 days alone. You know what that kind of does. Were you like, um, well, I guess you've seen already a few of the seasons though, right? So you kind of knew that people could stay out there for a while.
Yeah, by the time I went actually on the show, I had watched pretty much the whole series.
Okay.
Because you know, I'd looked at that as training. You know, like you
Sure. Absolutely.
figure out what other people did wrong and try and learn from that. So yeah, I kind of had this expectation that I needed to be out there for 80 days, roughly 80 days, in order
Oh,
to
wow. Okay.
win. And I was constantly doing that calculation in my head based on like how much weight I was losing, how much food I had cached away, and you know, what the likelihood of other people having gotten a big game animal was, which at that point for season 9, the 3 previous seasons someone had gotten something big,
Yeah.
and we're living off of that. That's kind of like for the show is like a golden ticket. You know, you got 100 pounds of meat in the freezer, like you're sitting pretty. You just got to outlast everybody then. And we had like, there was like 4 guys out of the 10 who were like really, really experienced big game hunters.
Oh, really? Okay.
And,
Okay.
you know, I had it in my head, unfortunately, because it ended up not being true, that surely one of those guys had gotten a bear and that I was, you know,
Mm,
trying to compete on like squirrels and grouse against someone with 200 pounds of meat and fat in their cellar. And I was just going to starve myself to death for no reason. And um,
yeah.
that was, again, was my undoing because I reached a point where I had lost 60 pounds
Wow.
and I went in at 215 and came out around 155, which I had never been that skinny in my adult life.
Wow.
So and that was around day 50. I tapped out on day 52. So I had done the calculations and then I thought, okay, well, I need to last another month. And here I am, skin and bones. What is another month going to do to me?
Mm,
And, you know,
interesting.
I didn't, yeah, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to wreck myself. And I think ultimately that was a good decision because the guy who did win looked better at day 78 or whatever it was than I did at day 52. So, you know,
That's it's interesting that you kind of went through that. So you're under a lot of good medical care there as well. Like I'm assuming that it's got to be like you're doing some fairly extreme things. They would have very good medical care for you if you're in a problem.
they, I mean, they have a doctor that will come out
Mhm.
towards once a certain stage in the game. I think day 30 or something is the first time the doctor comes out, and
Okay.
I don't remember the exactly, but after a certain period of time, they'll have a medical professional with the crew who will do a little assessment of you, and essentially they're looking to make sure you're not starving to death, or exhibiting any other kind of like serious physical
Mm.
conditions. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's medical care, but like you're on your own. Like you, ultimately, they want you to make that decision that you're coming out. They do not want to pull people up for medical
Okay.
reasons.
No,
Um,
that's really good to know,
so
actually.
by the time you're getting pulled, you should have tapped,
Ah.
really, and you're past for whatever reason the point of making that decision rationally.
Mm.
And they have to make that decision for you. But that's always kind of like a
That's the
last
last.
case.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So after losing all that weight, Adam, like, did you have to be careful when you came back? Like when you like start to come back, or was that not too much of a problem?
Yeah, so you actually have to stay at base camp for a period of time until they deem you fit enough to travel, and you are closely monitored for
Oh,
the
okay.
first week or so, because there is a something called, I think it's called like refeeding syndrome or something like that.
Okay.
And a person who is literally starving to death, which is how you could classify most of the people who come out after 50 or 60 days, as starving to death.
Right.
If you try and if you just let them eat whatever they want, you could die, because your body will your blood pressure, your blood sugar levels, everything will spike, and
Mm.
you can like literally kill yourself. So they kind of like, they give you just a little bit of food to start out with, and gradually more every day, and they control what they're feeding you. I mean, they have like a nutritionalist on staff who's monitoring all of your vitals and everything else. They're very careful about you know making sure that they don't do something detrimental to the health of the people who are coming out. They know that it's a dangerous thing that they're doing, and they're walking a little tightrope with people's health. Because
Wow.
not everybody
Okay.
coming out is able to make rational decisions
Mm.
around food. You're mentally like in a place where like you will want to eat everything.
Hmm.
So they,
Wow.
yeah, it's a whole thing. Like they've learned a lot over 15, 12 years or however many seasons they've done it now.
So when you came out, you were there for another week
Hmm.
in their care?
Some people are there for as long as 2 weeks, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Because like while you're watching the show, you're thinking like they're literally on a helicopter and they fly back home again almost. Like you don't
Hmm.
even see that part of the story, right? Like,
Well, they do a little after interview. And usually they'll say in the after interview, there's like a little subtext and be like 5 days after a tap out or 6 days after tap out.
ah,
So
okay,
maybe if you're paying attention to that, you might realize that they're not just going straight home. But yeah, I mean you know they're giving the perception you have exited the story.
right,
Like,
yeah,
so you're gone as far as they're concerned for the story's sake. Um, but yeah, you're being cared for
no,
after
that's
you.
that. It's really good to know like that part of the background because it's like you you see the extreme and you kind of use the term narrative and this and the story arc of what they're trying to show for each participant. And you've kind of shed light on that health part because it's like I've heard the people that have literally are well, not many intentionally do that, I suppose, but how careful you have to be in reintegrating yourself to diet and food and
Mm-hmm.
nourishment and drink. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize you'd have to stay there like for a week though. Like, wow, that's a lot. That's a long time. But
It's a good thing.
oh
I
yeah,
I mean, like, you would not want to just be thrown immediately back into the hubbub of like a big airport or something. It would
Oh,
be
oh,
completely overwhelming after like 2 months of just being alone in the wilderness, eating like fruits and berries and fish. And like, like I remember coming out, and that first night, they have some generators running for like the base camp for the, lodge or whatever that is where they're all the crew is staying.
right.
And I'm sleeping in kind of like a nice, cushy sort of tent. And just the noise of those generators, I couldn't sleep. Like it was just overwhelming because everything had been so quiet for
Oh,
like
right.
2 months. And like,
Yeah.
these external kind of inputs that you quickly like get used to not experiencing, like all of your senses when you're in that world,
Oh,
it's like you're a human animal again, and all of your senses are like in hyper drive. Your sense of hearing, your sense of smell, your sense of taste, your awareness of your surroundings are like jacked up to 100. It honestly feels incredible. You're like, wow, this is how human beings have felt
r-
for the entirety of our human existence, and we have like dulled
yeah.
ourselves
Oh,
to
yeah.
these inputs by just bombarding our brains with bullshit 24/7.
Absolutely.
And like, now you're attuned to your environment in a way that like an animal would be. And everything feels like it's too much. So you've got to kind of like reacclimate to the real world. You really do. So
When you were like, when you're dropped, what do they call it? Drop shock or something to that?
yeah, yeah.
And you're exactly to the point you're making here. How long do you think you take before you get like you're part of the environment you're now in? Like, does that take a few days? Because it's not
Yeah,
instant either, probably, right?
no, it's not. It would be hard to put a number on that. I think you just kind of slowly start integrating into your environment. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how long it would take. I think it's just like you're constantly evolving in that way the entire time you're out there, forever, however long that may be. I think you're getting more and more integrated into your environment because, ultimately, even if you're out there for 2 months, which is a long time
Right.
through the arc of the show, that's
Oh,
not a long time, really. So I think it's a process that a person who lasts 80 days on the show
oh,
has had a fundamentally different experience from someone who lasts 20 days on the show.
oh, yeah. I was gonna say that is that's a pretty big statement. When you finally come back, you come back to home. Like, was there something that you craved, like ice cubes or music, or like, because
Yeah,
you're not no you have no sensory outside of the forest, right?
yeah,
Like outside of your environment,
that's
like you
right.
have
Yeah,
nothing, right?
yeah, nothing. Yeah. So I was really looking forward to a cup of coffee.
Oh,
And
okay.
I had not had drank. I like cut caffeine out of my life for a couple of weeks before we get dropped, so that I
Oh, okay.
wasn't fiending for it or whatever when I got there. And I waited until I got home because I wanted to go to my favorite little coffee shop, and I had a latte
Cool.
and a cream puff. And yeah, I was excited about that. And I was also really craving breakfast foods. And I came up with this elaborate, like 5 different elaborate breakfast meals that I wanted to make when I got home. And I did all of them when I got back.
Were were like your parents, people, friends and stuff, when you came back, were they surprised at your like physicalness?
Yes. Yeah, I was very thin. I wasn't like, emaciated. I had had a little bit of time to like get my fluids back up and put a little bit of extra meat on my bones, because your body is like absorbing everything when you come out, and like you'll gain like 10 pounds in like 2 weeks. It's crazy.
Wow.
And I actually yo-yoed. I went from 155. I gained like 50 pounds in like a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
Because my metabolism was totally screwed up. And it
Oh,
took me quite
right.
a bit of time of like yo-yoing to really get back to where I normally am, which is about 180 pounds. And yeah, it took like over a year actually.
Oh,
So
really? That's
yeah,
a long time.
yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
couldn't lose that weight, that extra like 20, 25 pounds or whatever it was. Could not lose that weight for months. Couldn't.
Really
It just clinged to my body.
interesting.
Yeah.
So have you like you did mention Maddie? Have you stayed in touch with other contestants and some of their experiences at all?
Yeah, we all kind of stayed in touch,
Oh,
and
that's
I've
cool.
made a couple of really close friends through that experience because it's such a unique bonding experience.
Oh,
Like you are alone, but it is a shared experience,
hmm.
and there's different phases to that. Like the whole selection process is an experience in and of itself, and then you have the actual show, and then you've got that period where a year later the show's coming out and people are watching it and you're watching it with them. You have no idea what they're going to show, what they're not going to show, and like ultimately what is shown on TV, you perceive it differently in your own mind of how you
Oh man.
experienced it, like, but the show is the show. So like you're watching it with everybody else and seeing what everyone else got up to while you're out there, and talking about it with each other. So like,
What
you build these friendships throughout it, and there's definitely a few people who I'll be friends with for the rest of my life from
Oh,
that
that's
experience
very
for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
What was it like watching because I forget, like, it comes out about a year after you did it.
Yeah,
What was it like watching? Like, that could have been surreal.
it was surreal. Yeah, it was a bizarre experience, and I was lucky. I felt like they were very they did a very good job of portraying my experience in the way that I remember it. I don't think there was anything where I was like, but there was like a couple of things where I'm like, man, I can't believe they showed that or whatever. But like, um,
Well, you have
for
a
the most
very
part, I was,
memorable moment, right? And I think it's towards the end when you let the grouse go.
yeah, that was the last thing I did. Yeah.
And when after having
I got a lot of shit for that one, Doug.
oh well, after you've kind of talked about your life in our conversation today, it's very understandable to me. That's why I thought it was kind of cool to match that up. But I guess
I
others
got
didn't. Oh
I
man.
got exhausted with killing things.
Okay.
And I had done a bit of hunting and fishing and stuff in my background. And I think that a lot of people who hunt recreationally cannot understand what it's like to hunt for your own existence
Mm,
and to
mm,
kill things every single day, and you need to kill that thing in order to live. And like when you're shooting a deer from 100 yards away with a scoped rifle, and by the time you get there it's dead,
mhm.
and you do that once or twice a year, you think you understand what it's like to kill things. But when you're shooting something from 10 yards with a bow and arrow
Oh,
and running up to it and holding it in your hands while it like flutters and breathes its last breath, and you can see the terror in its eyes, and you know
oh wow.
and you need that animal to die in order to like have a meal that night, and you do that every single day for a game show that you can leave whenever you want to. There was a couple of like grouse that I killed that like they flew away, and I had to hunt them down and find them. By the time I got there, there was one that had gotten winged, and it was still alive like
Oh,
30 minutes later, and like just struggling, and I just felt so bad about it. And like that when you're in a fragile state, like you're mentally in a fragile state, it is a different experience. I mean, like I'm a tough guy. Like I've killed a lot of
mhm,
animals in my life, and I don't take any pleasure in it at all. But these kind of people who see themselves as hunters,
mm,
it's not the same thing.
yeah.
And that's a psychology of the show that like doesn't really get talked about or acknowledged enough. Is that like that is, I mean, and look, maybe that doesn't bother other people, but it bothered me. And being able to let that last grouse walk free because I had already made the decision that I was going to leave that day felt good. I got to just sit and watch it, which I had never done, right? Because like every
Right.
single grouse I had encountered up to that moment, I was trying to kill it so that I could eat it. And as an animal lover, and like as someone who has developed this close relationship with this animal over the course of the 2 months that I was out there, it was so nice to be able to watch this bird just poking around, doing its little thing, living its little life, and knowing that I was like giving it the grace to just let it fly free afterwards. And
That's
I just got a
cool.
tattoo of a grouse. That was like,
Oh, you did?
yeah, like it was like an animal I felt like a real
Connected to.
connection to out there. Yeah, and I wanted to commemorate my experience some way, so I went and got a little grouse tattoo, and
That is really cool.
I love those birds.
But you didn't get necessarily good feedback from doing that.
It's just
Yes.
they don't get it. Like
It's just
it
goofy
didn't
stuff.
bother me at all. But yeah, it's just people just being like, "Oh, you could have had one more meal out there. Like you just quit. Like you just gave up." It's like,
Well,
yeah,
the
I
other thing
did. It's like, okay, that is correct.
I was kind of blown away by, and it's the, I'll say, the construction ability. And you made a pretty nice door that I can remember
Yeah,
in watching the show. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so when you go back and watch watch your show, and you mentioned like being surreal, was it when you find out where others were while you're going through that? Was that kind of like a shock, or like did you have any kind of reaction to that? Because in the show we all get to see that, of course, right?
When I
And we
find out,
forget,
what do you mean when I find out where others were?
like, as far
Like,
as like, you kind of knew, like, as the time went through, and you were saying earlier on that you're always thinking like, is somebody, where are they at, or have they got this, and have they caught a big game animal? Then you
yeah,
see the show and it's all revealed to the spectator. But you don't know that when it's going on, right? And as a
no,
spectator, you forget that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there were some things that surprised me for sure. Like, I'm a professional. I build houses for a living, so I knew I was like, okay, like first thing I'm gonna do is build a shelter, and I'm gonna get this thing done. And I put in like 12-hour days for like a week, and I had it done in a week. And I knew that I could do that because I have that skill.
Right.
But there are other people who maybe had never not really been a shelter had built anything,
Yes.
like it's just not something that maybe they had tried doing it a couple of times just to have some practice or whatever. But like, there were people who were still building their shelter 40 or 50 days in. And that surprised me, is because
Interesting.
someone is like, well, just get it done and get on with it, and then you can focus on other things. That was,
That's cool.
it's just a
Yep.
different set of skills. That was something that I could lean on, that I was confident in. And I was happy with the results. But not everybody can work that quickly
Yes.
or efficiently or whatever, and that's fine.
Well, I was going to say, it certainly it broadened my mind as to an experience that, like, and I will be, from my side, it's not something that I desire to do. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating watching how the mind goes through this, at least in the narrative that they presented. So you then did the Northwest Passage after the Alone series. Have you got other things in the works
Um,
that you're willing to talk about?
yeah, so we filmed a documentary about the passage, which we released with PBS last year, and
So,
we
Adam, what's that called?
it's called Passage.
Okay, that's a
And
good name.
it's available. You can actually watch it on YouTube if you're interested. It's just type in Passage PBS. I'm sure it'll come up and be the top
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
And that was, something that we were very proud of. And we've talked about going back. We were actually going to go back this year, but we weren't able to kind of get all of our financial and logistical ducks in a row to make that happen. So we're pushing that back. But ultimately, spoiler alert, we didn't make it. And it's something that, while it wasn't like a lifelong dream of mine, there's a draw to being in the Arctic. It is an incredible place. It's like nowhere I've ever been in my life. And
interesting.
I am very interested in going back and getting something more out of that experience in the future. I don't really care about breaking a record or being the first to do X, Y, or Z. It's more about just going and experiencing this incredible, wild, ethereal landscape before it's permanently changed by the wheels of progress, which are coming down hard on the. You're Canadian, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've seen that the Canadian Arctic has been in the news a lot lately. Suddenly everybody wants a piece of it. And it's unsettling to see how fragile that environment is. I mean, we camped in areas where there would be like a stone ring from a campsite 200 years ago or 500 years ago, and it just hasn't moved. There's skeletons out there. God knows how old they are. Things don't decompose in the Arctic. They don't move. Like if you were to have an oil spill up there or a big ecological disaster, it would be absolutely catastrophic, because it just would take eons for it to recover. Maybe never, and so it's like, it's such a fragile place, and it's already experiencing the impacts of climate change. And I hope that the Canadian government knows how valuable it is beyond what can be extracted, and recognizes it for what it is. It's just a beautiful, unique habitat.
Well, part of
cynical though,
part of I think the problem, like in Canada, like I think it's 90% of the population lives like 150K from the border,
right?
And so that is part, like it's up there, but so few even know about it.
Yeah, I mean, even I spend a lot of time in Canada. I love Canada; it's my favorite country in the world.
Oh, cool.
And I tell Canadians about going through the Northwest Territories of the Yukon or Nunavut or whatever, and they're just like, even going to Newfoundland seems exotic to a lot of Canadians.
It is.
They don't travel their own country that much, which is such a shame. There's a national park up there, in just outside of a community called Polituck. It's in the Northwest Territory region still, before you get into Nunavut territory. I can't remember the name of the park. It's a Inuit name, but it is incredible. And last year, the total number of visitors to that park was 3.
Crazy.
3 people went up there to experience that. And this place is like, it's got like this massive waterfall and these like canyons and like herds of caribou that are thousands and thousands deep. And like, I'm not saying it needs to be like a tourism mecca, but if more people were interested and engaged, there would be a greater desire to protect.
Well, between you and Wes, you're probably going to get me up there, and
I hope so.
I'm originally from Toronto, like the Toronto area in Ontario, and we moved out here about 5 years ago because we've always liked the West. And so we're like literally on the West Coast, now about an hour out of Vancouver
Whereabouts?
in Abbotsford.
Okay.
So Vancouver, you're familiar with Vancouver?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, we're about an hour from Vancouver, just
Hmm.
directly east of it. And but we drove out here a couple of times, and you forget the vastness of the country you live in, right? Like
Hmm.
it's just and to your point, there's just the population is just like you go to Toronto, Vancouver, there's dense population, but by and large, when you drive across Canada, there's just not, and
Nothing.
that's even like near the border. You
I
go
think
up
that
into
Yeah, I think the Yukon Territory has like 65,000 people in the
oh,
entire
it's
territory, you know? Like,
it is not densely populated by any stretch of the imagination,
oh, it's wild. It
and you
is
see some,
wild, like
oh
truly
yeah,
wild.
and well, I was gonna say that's how I got connected with Wes. Is I have a friend who's a pilot, who flies. He was the ones that he was the pilot that actually when they landed at the end, he was the plane. He piloted the plane that actually picked up the kayak.
Oh, cool.
That's how I got connected. It was like a thread, but I got connected with Wes via there.
Yeah.
So when you describe the country that I live in, you get me kind of antsy about, well, I should be getting out here a little bit more
Yeah.
and learning more about it.
Honestly, like Newfoundland is another one of those places that I so I've spent a lot of time on the West Coast, out around Vancouver Island
Hmm.
and kind of the chain of islands that run up the West Coast, and some boating and kayaking and stuff out there, and it's gorgeous. Newfoundland is equally as gorgeous, and nobody knows that. Like
Yeah,
it's like this incredible series of like little offshore islands and beaches, and I mean it's like there's nobody there. There's nobody there.
there's
It's so
nobody
good.
there.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is. I mean, as I'm talking to you, like I'm getting a bit of anxious here, kind of going like, oh man, what? Like I got to get out there. I just had friends that came back from Newfoundland. He's from near Gander, and
Mm, hmm.
he says like anytime you just come out, and it's like okay, well we'll figure that out. But as I do more of these, the more interested I get in what's kind of going on, and being
Hmm.
able to see that.
Hmm.
I really liked your comment about when like the commitment. You're committing and then just going and doing, right? And it's like you don't need a trust fund to do this, which is kind of cool. So I had a whole bunch of things that so you filmed the passages um on PBS. Did 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 you film that obviously with your partner? Did the filming that you did with alone help that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially just talking to the camera and being able to be vulnerable and that sort of thing. You know, the my partner Maddie was uh, he has his own YouTube channel, and he's done a lot of filming over the years.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I would say most of the best shots he got. But I was more responsible for the logistics of the expedition,
Mm.
and because we were trying to do two things at the same time. We were trying to be the first team to paddle the Northwest Passage, which is a huge endeavor in and of
Oh,
itself, and then we were trying to make a film, and trying to do both. Like, with the being two of us, we leaned on our our own kind of natural abilities, which I had some expedition planning experience, and more experience on the water and that sort of thing. So things like just expedition prep kind of fell into
yes.
my area of expertise. So I mean, I would say that the alone thing definitely helped, for sure. And then the experience of being out there and just filming every day was a learning experience in and of itself. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping to do more of that as I continue down the line here with my little journey.
So you're thinking this is going to take place in 2027, this next crossing, or you don't know for sure yet?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't like I don't plan that far ahead.
Yeah. Well, I don't either. So
Yeah.
I shouldn't really be talking about it. So that's really the next big adventure you're thinking about doing, though.
Yeah, I'm really interested in doing more films.
Oh, okay.
And both myself and Maddie, my partner, are interested in turning the camera around and focusing on telling other people's stories as we go forward.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that's maybe more what I'm interested in. And as far as future endeavors go, we have a couple of ideas as far as like things we might want to do in Newfoundland. There's
Mm.
definitely some interesting stories to be told there. And then also, there's always going to be another adventure. I don't know 100% what that is yet, but I'm just waiting for that lightning to strike. Like I said
Oh,
before,
it's
I'll know it when I see it.
Well, I was going to say I've taken a big chunk of your Saturday away from you today, but I can't. I hope to stay in touch with you actually, Adam, because it sounds very fascinating and what you're up to. I just in closing here, because there's a lot more I could ask you today, but any thoughts that come to mind with regards to what you've done in this, I'll say, adventurer lifestyle? You're obviously a curious person, and like just for people that are have other things that they would like to do, or just any closing comments of things that you haven't talked about today that are kind of fascinating. We didn't really talk a lot about for instance, the Galapagos,
Yeah.
and but
um, you know, uh, if there's something you got an itch to do and you don't know where to start, there's always going to be someone who's done it, and
oh,
people are a lot more approachable than maybe you think they're going to be. It's like when I reached out to West, it's a good example of just like um, asking someone for help and receiving it. And the explorer community by and large is very supportive and like always willing to take a call and like provide advice and everything. If I had someone reach out to me and said, "Hey man, I want to sail across the Pacific," or "Hey, really want to go up and paddle the Northwest Passage as well," I'd be happy to take the time to talk to them, and I know that most people would be as well. So like, don't be afraid to reach out to people and seek advice, and you know just do it.
no, I,
It's
I
like,
like this. I like that statement. The
yeah.
whole "just do it" thing is kind of a cool way of looking at how uh, how things uh, how things really work that way.
Mhm.
Um, how long? I didn't ask you this. How long were you doing the Northwest Passage?
um so I was up there for like a month and a half, and Maddie was up there for like 3 months.
So quite a long time.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, it's over 2,000 miles. The
Oh,
route the route we were attempting was over 2,000 miles. I think West and their crew, they got a flight out, which shortened it by like 400 miles. But we were attempting to paddle without any kind of flight or anything like that. So we were we were doing over 2,000, and I
wow.
think Maddie made it about 1,600 before he had to pull the plug for various reasons. So
And he was alone at that point.
yeah, he was alone for almost 2 months.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah, which is a lot. I mean, like, it's one thing to that level of isolation and stress is beyond even anything that I've done. Um, like there's very few places that are as dangerous as the Arctic in a small boat, and to be there completely alone.
Oh,
I mean, even West would tell you like that's just like another level of hardcore.
I'm just thinking of the game alone, like polar bears as an
Yeah.
example, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
Polar
yeah.
bears, wolves, grizzly bears, hypothermia,
Yes.
drowning, Like, there's a lot of ways, a lot of things that could get you.
No, that's amazing. Well, Adam, do you have a website?
No.
Like if a person wanted to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
Reach out to me on Instagram,
Instagram?
or
Okay.
or YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Adam
Okay.
Riley. So, you know, or just email me, adamgeorgeriley@gmail.com.
Well, I was going to say in the description for the podcast, we'll put those up there and
Sure.
for people to kind of reach out to you. Adam, it's what an extraordinary conversation. I was going to say it's so wonderful. Like so many people I talk to, I would really like to meet in person. And maybe one day I'll get to meet you because it is
Next
very cool
next
to.
next time I'm swinging through Vancouver, I'll give you a call, man.
Oh, by all means. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a little studio here. We could definitely have a chat, just even have a coffee if you have time. But it's but
Sounds
you're
great.
headed. It sounds like you're also liking Labrador a lot too, as in
Yeah.
Newfoundland.
Oh yeah.
But with
Absolutely.
that, I was going to say thank you very much for the time today,
You're
and
welcome.
I was going to say I'd love to do this again. So
Sure.
I may reach out to you, and thank you for watching today. The I'll say the incomparable Adam Riley
Mhm.
from the Shearer to the I'll say survivalist adventurer explorer. Fascinating story. And with
Thanks,
that,
Doug.
and I'll say worth catching. Check out season 9 of Alone. You can see Adam actually in action. With that, thanks very much, Adam. Stay on the line
Thanks,
for
Doug.
just a minute.
Oh yeah.
Are we on? Good. Welcome to the Better Than Not podcast. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. But when we at least do something, we know it's almost always better than not.